Henry, if policy is still relatively restrictive, then why is inflation, particularly on the services side, still looking relatively elevated? At what point in the cycle is it going to start cracking?
Yeah, I mean, you're completely right to bring that up. I think the Hawks do have plenty of ammunition, and that's why the first cut, when it came in August, was finely balanced. It was a 5-4 vote split. And I think that's why there's no consensus at this point to front-load policy easing, as we've seen in the US. On services inflation, there are some distortions there. We saw the volatile airfares component contribute in August. We're still broadly confident that the underlying disinflation process remains on track in the UK. Things are moving in the right direction gradually. But yeah, there are some reasons for caution. We have seen some public sector pay awards be announced. That's likely to add a little bit more fuel to the fire. Nominal wage growth overall for the economy is still fairly high, 5% plus, certainly in sort of uncomfortable territory from a monetary policy perspective. So the reasons for caution are there, I think, for some officials on the MPC.
And Henry, in a week where we saw quite an aggressive move by the Fed with 50 basis points in easing and the signalling of the start of an easing campaign, how does that shake out in the MPC? How closely are they watching the differentials, or is policy making really marching to the beat of its own domestic drum?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's the key question, isn't it? I think if you cast your mind back actually to the tightening cycle, the Bank of England was the first major central bank to raise rates back in December 2021, and I think that is a badge of honour maybe for some policymakers. But the key point was that the Bank of England was soon playing catch-up with the Fed after that. To the extent that actually they got to this pretty much the same peak rate during the tightening phase. I think maybe that shows some kind of revealed preference of BOE officials to minimise divergence with the Fed. I mean, they would be happy with a little bit of divergence, but they don't want too much. As we just heard, the recent story has been about sterling outperformance. I don't know if the Bank of England would be comfortable with that going much further, say if we saw some kind of rumours of more forceful action from the Fed again. That could make some policymakers at Threadneedle Street a little bit uncomfortable, I think.